All righty, real good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inside Texas with Jeff or Mitch. I'm sorry, with Mitch and Jeff. I put Mitch first. I gotta put the king first.
It don't matter, dude.
I gotta put our new Texas Speaker of the House on here first. Dude.
Oh man.
Anyway, our show is brought to you by the Medical Arts Clinic here in Bay City, Texas. And if you get a chance, go over and see those guys at Medical Arts Clinic. They do a great job, and we'll talk about a little bit more about them a little later. But I want to thank those guys for being a part of Gulf Coast One Radio and Inside Texas.
Yeah.
So how you doing, Mitch? You doing all right?
Really good. I will tell you, man, 2025 is hit with a vengeance, man.
Ooh, man.
You know, we last week was busy. Of course, we're trying to get ready for the chamber banquet Thursday night and get all a million pieces all lined up. We're going to do Teachers of the Year awards for all our ISD, Student of the Year. We got Man and Woman of the Year. We've also jumping in with our Sergeant partners and our Matagorda partners. So it's a fun-filled evening, and we got a surprise for right after dinner. So we've got a lot going on. But man, it was crazy.
Hey, I'll come and get my award for Bonehead or whatever it is.
In it to win it.
In it to win it, baby. Just
that's right. I meant to tell you before you left on market days. Did you ever get your pot picked up from the chamber?
The other pot? No, we got to come and get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we found out it was there, and we were looking for it for a year. Where my brain's at, but no, we'll get.
No, it's still in there. But anyway, yeah, a lot going on, Jeff. Next week we'll talk a little bit. I'm not really ready to talk about it now, but we had a really interesting meeting with the Corps of Engineers in Wharton this afternoon.
Right.
We'll talk about that next week. They're doing a lot of work on flood mitigation, stopping the flooding inside the city of Wharton. And so the question is, if the water doesn't leave the river basin and stays in the river, what does that do to us downstream? So, and an interesting meeting. So we were. Well, that's cool. I was pleasantly surprised at the openness of the entire team.
Right.
I was telling Carolyn, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we couldn't get a word out of them. We couldn't even get them to admit they were doing work, flood mitigation work. And now all of a sudden they're inviting us to a meeting and opening up the books and showing us literally everything. So
right.
I'm proud, happy. Like I said, we'll put that on the agenda for next week.
All right. Let's hit a couple. Well, first of all, told you I wanted to say something on Facebook. Yeah, on Facebook. I saw this on Facebook, and it was a customer recording employees behind a counter, and the employees were recording the other person on the other side of the counter. There's a business evidently that has some employees that are swearing and cursing while the customers are coming in and stuff like that.
Locally?
Yeah, locally.
Oh, okay.
Within Matagorda County.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not gonna say what it is.
Yeah, no, I got
you. Everything. But I'm seeing that more and more in the customer service area, where there's a lot of disrespect for the people that are spending money.
You're right.
People got to realize, if you own a business, not only do you own that business, you have to represent this county and the city. If you're in whatever city you're in, you represent it. We got a lot of people that come in from out of town, especially in Matagorda County. And if you want their business to come back and you want to build up your business, you can't go 5 years down the line and say, well, I wonder why nobody's spending any money with me. Bay City sucks. Matagorda County sucks. So you can't make no money here. Well, you can. You can. You really, really can. There's a lot of, I'm gonna say this again, and this is something, again, the Jewish guy that taught me business really well, worked for him for 18 years. If people are coming to your business, they have money in their pocket. Your job is to figure out how to get that money out of their pocket.
Right. That's right.
And then you can make money. Now, if you do it wrong, or you say the wrong thing, or you're disrespecting, you're at a business, and a business should run like business. If you're having a good, you should be able to have a good time where you're working, and things like. But language wise, you got to watch what you say, especially a small business that kids can walk in and stuff. You got to watch what you say, who you say it to, and when you say it to. Yes, you have the right to get rid of customers you don't like, but I don't feel you have the right to get rid of customers who are right. Okay. On this certain occasion, there was a lot of swearing and cursing going on behind the counter, and that gentleman went over and said, "Hey, I got my son with me. Do you mind watching the language?" And then it all went crazy. It is on Facebook. You'll see what I mean. You'll know the business. Right. I know the owner. I know his wife. And the owner was there at the time this happened. And I feel, and he could say something to me, I don't feel he handled it well. So it's not a chamber. I made sure it wasn't a chamber person.
Okay.
Before I said anything about
Excellent.
It. So anyway, you need to, if you have a business, step up to the plate, and do your
Isn't
best.
That common courtesy, though, Jeff? I mean,
yeah, it is.
Not cussing in front of females, and I never would cuss in front of my mom. I mean,
believe it or not, it was all females that were cursing.
Oh, wow!
And it was a man that came up and said something to them, and they were throwing them out of the store. And if you don't like it here, and all this stuff. So it's on Facebook. You can watch the video, both sides, if you want. We have. With everything that's going on in this country, I feel, and I think you'll agree with me, we have a huge mental crisis going on in this country. Hugely,
something's going on.
I saw on a football field where a bunch of young kids were playing. A parent or somebody, I didn't see the whole story, but came on the field with a hatchet and was going to go after the coaches and things like that. And they finally tased this guy and got him down. It was crazy. You see things like that, what I was just talking about. You see other people that's going around and videoing people talking in private conversations and stuff, and people look and say, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I have the right to video this place," and this and that, or trying to push buttons to get people to go off, because that's how they make their money on YouTube or Facebook, with getting these people to get mad at them videoing them, or police stations or police department. The police departments and sheriff's departments and emergency services have enough to worry about without you going around with a camera right now and videotaping their buildings. You don't need take a picture and walk away. What do you need a video for? Take a picture. You want to take a picture of the building? Take a picture and walk away. You got all these guys coming into just say the courthouse, and they got their cameras rolling. And they're saying, "Hey, what's your name? What's your badge?" And it's like, "Well, what are you asking me all this for?" First of all, they don't know who you are.
Right.
And if you haven't noticed, there's enough crazy nuts out there to start a problem or start an issue. And it's becoming a huge issue. And I think our government needs to step in on something like that a little bit. If you're going to step in with HIV testing and COVID testing and all this other testing, you need to be some mental health stuff. And going back now to January, going back to January 1st here, when that guy did what he did, something mentally snapped in his head to do what he did. The one in Las Vegas, something snapped in his head to mentally do what he did.
Well, and then that girl, that school shooting where that girl shot the school up.
Yeah, there's something going on. And it has a lot to do with, let's ignore the problem. It'll probably go away.
Well,
we have a lot of that.
We have Help It MeHop or Vibrance now. Sorry.
Yes.
Vibrance has, and they're affordable. They've got a grading scale, depending on your salary, whether you
have to go to them though, correct?
Yeah,
you have to go to them. What we need to do is to be able to monitor people a little bit better and have some kind of a hotline if you think that somebody's having a mental breakdown, or you think that there's somebody out there that could hurt. Now, you're going to get those calls that somebody got mad or whatever, and they're going to make phone calls to it. That happens a lot. But I think for people to look into it a little bit more, because somebody with mental health issues for the most part does not walk into a place and say, hey, I'm thinking about shooting up a school, I'm thinking about
right.
bombs. It has to be watched and monitored. And the biggest mistake that was made on January 1st with the guy in New Orleans, especially, there was already signs of him going to do what he was going to do, and no one caught it. And that is the Facebook post that he put on there. And if
Right.
that stuff's supposed to be monitored, Facebook's supposed to be monitored like that. As a matter of fact, I think as of January 1st, I think it was, the monitoring on Facebook for some of this fact checking stuff, that company is no longer. Facebook said, no, we're not going to do it no more. It just doesn't make sense. There's too many biased people in there to be able to determine that stuff. So I wish there was something better to monitor and help people with.
Well, that's a slippery slope, Joe. I agree with you, Jeff, but that's a slippery slope. All I got to do is be mad at you, and I'm picking the phone up and going, Jeff Michael said he was going to kill me and himself and his family, and I think you need to go pick him up, and you didn't do nothing.
Right. No, and I agree with you.
And so I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. It's kind of like the red flag laws. So
yes.
So that was presented to me. I had not heard it when I was running for state rep. And for those that don't know about the red flag laws, basically it is if we don't have that in Texas, but in other areas, you can call the cops or call the authorities and say, hey, I've got a reason to believe this person could hurt themselves or somebody. And an officer go to the place, the house.
Yeah.
And if there's guns, can actually remove the guns.
Yeah.
I came out in favor of that with the understanding of how the law was written, and let a judge hear it, and dismiss the charges or I guess, heaven forbid, file a, how you file it when you actually put them in custody?
Yes.
So non-voluntary incarceration, I guess. But the other thing, Jeff, and although we've got Texana, we've got Vibrance here locally, we've still got but like you said, most people don't go up there and say, hey, I'm crazy, I need to check myself in. Now, some do, thank goodness, especially with
sure they do,
alcohol or drug abuse.
Yeah.
I would say the smart ones seek help.
Yes. And that's the thing right there. What you just said, the smarter ones will seek help, but you still have those people who don't. And we have more and more, our populations get higher and higher and higher. We're going to have more and more and more of these issues.
Well, I don't know where this comes in, Jeff, but there's 1,000 people a day moving into Texas. I mean, and you figure what's the odds of 1,000 of them there's a percentage that has mental problems.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. I mean, that's a good, the libertarian in me kind of freaks out over it.
Yeah. Well,
but
the thing is, I think there's people higher than our pay grades. That study this and do this a lot. And I can't remember the person who we had talked about or even had on the show at one time. They had when they had some of these folks come to the schools.
Oh, yeah. Allison Sleva brought that gentleman. What was his name?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to talk to him.
He had developed I'll call it a survey.
Yeah.
A questionnaire, and based on the students' answer of the questionnaire, placed them, this is going to sound, don't quote me on it, place them in categories.
Yes.
And he felt like that 80% was going to go into the category that no follow-up is needed.
Correct.
but then there was going to be like 10% that was going to need some professional counseling.
Correct.
And then 5 was going to be really bad off, and then 5 was going to need to be removed from the school.
Well, he might be able to help us answer the overall question.
Yeah.
Of, how as a not just a state but a nation.
Yeah.
Work to.
God, I can't remember. I used to get his emails. He may have retired. I used to get his emails.
Yeah.
He's from Chicago, born and raised in Bay City.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. And he came down after Harvey. He came down with a lot of his colleagues.
Right.
And did Allison Sleva turned me on to him when she was at the school.
Right.
At the Bay City High School. And
maybe I can ask her, or you can. I talk.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
Yeah. There's got to be something to start or put together, or what, if anybody would know, it'd be somebody in that profession that would know,
right.
Okay, what is it that we need to do? What direction do we have to go in order to take steps into making this happen? Rather than saying, hey, we got to be more aggressive than this and more. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying.
And it is proactive. I mean, I like the proactive. I like the way he couched it. I would say that.
Yeah.
Let me reach out. I lost track, and we actually had presented, made a presentation to Lois Kokors, our state senator.
That's right.
She chairs Human Health Services.
Right.
And we were looking for some money to do a pilot program here.
Right.
And we didn't get the funding, but no, you're I'm remembering that now. I don't remember his name, but
does he still live down in this area, or I
don't think he ever lived there. I think he was born and raised here,
but he lived in Chicago.
In Chicago, the last I remember.
Yeah, I'd like to get something together we're working.
I know I've got something on my computer at the office.
Just ask that.
That's a great question.
Yeah, so maybe I get an interview with them or whatever. That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to the next thing I want to ask you. Let's go real quick on the updates in Bay City, the traffic lights. We talked about that. Let's talk about that. Let's go with the Jack in the Box ones first. Go ahead.
So that's been fixed. I talked to Ryan Semper. He's with TxDOT. He's the engineer in charge here in Bay City. He's actually offices in Wharton. And I asked him, I said, what's kind of the deal? Why did we stop work? He said, well, the contractor stopped work because of the holidays. I haven't seen them start back up yet. He felt like that they were going to be finished in a late April, early May timeline with everything.
Right.
But the particular light you were talking about, I looked Sunday. I talked to him last week in preparation for tonight. And I looked Sunday, that has been fixed. That traffic signal has been rehung, so to speak.
Right.
And so work will resume. I didn't get a date from him, but he felt like they had about another 90 to 120 days to finish that project.
Okay.
So it'll be nice. And I get the fact that, there's 2 sets of light, one's wrapped in plastic, one's working. I get the fact that it's difficult, but also it was kind of a funny story. Now that I'm noticing it more and more, I was in Wharton. I told you I went to a meeting in Wharton, and they've got the same thing. They've got the new ones hung wrapped up in black plastic, and they've got the old ones dangling.
Right.
So and maybe it's the same contractor. I don't have a clue.
So when you were in Wharton, did you run into our friend Andy Kirkland?
I did not. It was kind of a quick trip in. It was right there at the Civic Center, but I did look for a pile of Miller Lite cans, and I didn't see it.
Maybe he cleaned up this time.
Maybe.
Maybe he cleaned them up this time.
But it was. It's funny. It was right up his alley. It was flood mitigation, and I know that's deep in his.
Yeah, I know he had a couple of things he was telling me that he had to do this past week, back and forth, in and out of of this area. Had to go to Austin for something and something else. So they got him running ragged right now, even though he's supposed to be retired. He's not anymore. He's back at it. So, okay. And then Nile Valley Road, I saw them working on that. Actually, we talked about it on last Monday, and they started working there on Tuesday. I saw the work done there.
That's a local contractor, Matagorda Concrete, Matagorda Building Materials. Bruce Crosskoff's the owner. I saw them out there. They're working on that. Got back. I will tell you that part of his situation with that is, of course, that's weather. That's weather sensitive. It's hard to pack dirt and pack it when it's raining and wet and muddy. So that timeline of road work is particularly, and I also know I also understand too that when you're laying asphalt, it has to be a particular temperature. You can't you can't
lay when it's freezing.
You can't lay it, and groundwork as well.
Yeah, I believe it has to be above 60 degrees.
Yeah, so very, very sensitive to the weather. I don't know if the light situation is that same way. I don't want to hang on a bucket truck and it 32 degrees and the wind blowing 30 miles an hour. But so I'm interested in that project getting finished. But it's the same thing in Wharton. So they're replacing several of their lights as well.
All right, cool. All right, let's talk about the big stuff now. What's going on tomorrow in Austin? What's happening tomorrow?
We are swearing at. No, we're swearing in.
Yeah, swearing at. We're gonna be swearing at these guys.
We're swearing at those state legislators.
That's right. Those sons of guns.
Noon tomorrow, our Senate and our House takes the oath of office. And so we'll be kicking off the session. If you'll remember, it's 140 days. And it's every 2 years. And here it goes. So we don't have a speaker. So that's an interesting watch. If you'll remember, Speaker Phelan.
That may be a good thing.
You can't get anything done without a speaker. So
yes, I know, but there's a lot of speakers up there. It just
well, and it's kind of comical for those of us that just live and eat and breathe this stuff. Everybody knows Dan Patrick, our lieutenant governor, does not like Phelan. Our Ken Paxton, our attorney general, does not like Phelan because Phelan led the impeachment process against him. I don't know how the governor feels. The governor's probably not real happy with Phelan because he wouldn't let school vouchers pass last session. It was interesting yesterday that the lieutenant governor had one additional shot at those individuals in the leadership. He started talking about the 5 investors for debt. Now, Dennis Bonin's been out of the house for 4 years, but his name keeps being brought up all the time. So they're saying that there's 5 investors that are out of the house that back in the day invested in Dennis Bonin's bank. That he owned and sold in 2002 or 2020, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Sold the bank and but anyway, so a lot of disparaging remarks going around. You have 2 candidates. Well, you have more than 2 primary candidates on the Republican side. You do have a declared candidate on the Democratic side for speaker, which is, I think, an interesting mix since there's very few Democrats in the House. You've got Representative Cook. He's from Tarrant County, Fort Worth. He's probably the most conservative side. His mantra is that Democrats are the minority, and these are my words, not his. and that they probably shouldn't even bother showing up at the Capitol because the Republicans are in charge and the Republicans are going to do everything. And so there isn't any real need for a Democrat to show up at the House this session because none of the Republicans really want to hear from a Democrat.
Right.
Then you've got Representative Burrows from Lubbock. Now, if you'll remember, Burrows was in the room when Dennis Bonnen made his famous recorded speech of getting rid of 10 Republicans. Burrows was his lieutenant. And Burrows is saying, hey, I can work with the Democrats. I could go as far as to put some Democrats in a chairmanship's position. And he's trying to win the Democratic support along with a few Republicans. Cook, funny thing, Cook doesn't want any Democratic help, but yet he's already got a Democrat signed on to his pledge card. So who the heck knows? Truth be known, a day before the vote for Speaker, I will tell you that neither one of those two have the votes necessary. It takes 76 votes. Well, I guess 75 votes. If you vote for yourself, then you can be Speaker. Odds are that there may even be a third candidate out there quietly working. I've heard Todd Hunter, which is a very good friend of Matagorda County. Todd's a really good conservative Republican, helped us out with TWIA, the windstorm insurance, has a keen knowledge of coastal issues. He's out of Corpus Christi. You know, at one time we almost had him as our state rep during redistricting. Dennis Bonnen was 22 miles away in Brazoria County. Todd Hunter was 3 hours away in Corpus Christi. And we chose Bonnen because he was 22 minutes away versus 3 hours.
Right.
Turned out Bonnen ended up being Speaker, did us a lot of good for many years. And but it's an interesting mix. Dennis Bonnen's name, he's now a lobbyist. He's his firm, he owns a firm now called Second Floor Strategies, based on the fact that the Speaker's office is on the second floor, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And so a lot of interesting barbs. You've got the lieutenant governor wants Cook and does not like Burrows at all.
Right.
And the governor's kind of staying out of it, although the Republican caucus, without a majority or without a quorum, voted to back Cook, which is again out of Tarrant County, if you remember Fort Worth. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. I'm going to make a prediction, and that is we may not have a speaker on Tuesday. It may be Wednesday or Thursday before somebody gets the votes necessary.
What's the biggest issue that the speaker would have thrown in front of him to approve to work with the governor? Would it be the school vouchers?
That would be one of the biggest. I don't know about the biggest, but certainly that would be one that in the past has been contentious. Glenn Hager just announced that the legislature has $24 billion extra dollars.
That's right. Yep.
24 billion excess dollars. Right. Now, Jeff, do I have to remind you whose money that is? When you have $24 billion in excess money, do you know what that tells me? Yep. You collected $24 billion of my money that you really didn't need.
Yeah.
So so I will tell you that in a session with a surplus like we have now,
yep,
it's very contentious because there's 1,000 ways to spend those $24 billion.
Yeah, and I think it should. Well, hang on. I lost what I was doing. Oh, right here. Oh. Okay, that's all right. So I can go back on a second. I'm sorry. There. Okay.
Yeah.
So teachers would be one. Pay for
Teachers
teachers.
pay raises.
Right. I think
Property tax relief.
property tax relief. Yeah.
It's got to be up there.
Yeah. I think
School vouchers.
School vouchers. Another thing that's becoming pretty popular with help, and I think Mike Esselman would agree with this, the help along the coastal erosion and things like
and
that.
Insurance. There's an idea of buying down windstorm insurance with state excess dollars. There's
Ross, you still there?
I'm here.
Hang on.
Can you hear me?
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You still there?
I'm still here. You're frozen though. Well, I'm gonna keep going. So you've got, I think the governor's very
I'm
interested.
going to refresh this. If you can hear me, I'm going to refresh this.
Okay.
So if you lost us, stay tuned.
Okay.
Oh, you're there. Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. You just froze.
Yeah, you froze too. You went out. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Because the internet here is like full power right now, it says.
Yeah.
It's up good. So was working fine all along, just glitched. Anyway, okay, that happens. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the big issues are teachers, school vouchers, property tax relief. But let me tell you about property tax relief. You know, the last session, they paid down school property taxes significantly. But Jeff, on the other side, they gave us money on this side of property tax relief. But then by God, they took property tax when they jacked all our appraisals up 10 and 20%.
Right.
So there wasn't any property tax relief.
Right.
They got a lot of headlines over it. So if you go into the session now, and Senator Bentoncourt will go in with this idea of property tax relief, paying down our property taxes, but then just to jack the blasted appraisals up on us,
right?
You're screwed.
Right.
So that's a whole nother argument there. The other things that I think we need to be very cognizant of, and Ferdinand has told us this, we're running out of water, we're running out of power, and that we need state dollars to incentivize.
Right.
I am a strong proponent. You remember, if you remember, we took $1 billion and put it toward water wastewater improvements. We took $1 billion, and we voted on this in November. We took $1 billion and put it into the Texas Water Development Board, so that they can help create water or help create stored water.
Right.
My friend Haskell Simons would tell me only God can create water.
Right.
But we need to transfer water. We need to desalinate water. We're desperately close. At the end of a water basin, we're running out.
Right.
Austin's growing. They're keeping the Highland Lakes water. There's a new water management plan coming out that's going to jack the numbers up even higher. That's they're just slowly turning that spigot and cutting off water to the lower basin.
Now, real quick before you go any farther. Okay, so $43 billion is available, right, or surplus.
Yeah, 28.
Okay, I mean, hang on.
28 billion.
Okay, hang on, I'll go back. 28.
And 1,000 ways to spend it.
Okay. How many people live in the state of Texas approximately?
8 million. That's a guess.
$8 million. Okay.
Of course, here's the other thing you have to understand. No,
if you took that 23 billion and you divided it by the amount of people that live in the state of Texas, that's $3,500 per person.
I know.
That's a lot of money, buddy. I don't care what anybody says. $3,500.
I know.
Wow.
But we also need power. I think they need to take some of that, put it to incentivizing nuclear power with the small modular reactors.
Okay, here's another thing. Those wind turbines that we have down here now that they're putting in. Do you know where that energy is going to?
Oh, it's going on the grid. I mean,
Our grid?
Yeah. It's going, well, I say it's going on the transmission lines, depending on where it's hooked up to. Basically, out of Matagorda County, you have 3 main distribution lines. Okay. You've got lines going to Houston, you got lines going to San Antonio, and you've got lines going to Austin.
Okay, so this is what I was told by, we actually had 2 guys that are working on this project down here that I fixed their generator for at the shop, and the guy came by and said, what are you guys working on? He said, oh, we're the ones putting up the wind towers. Yeah. So this guy's been working for this company, RWE. He's been working for RWE for 28 years or something like that, Lydia.
Yeah, they're something big.
Like that. He's been working for 28 years. He said this energy is going to California. That's what he said.
Yeah. Well, well, Jeff, the only thing bad about that is we don't have a connection grid-wise between us and California.
And yeah, I don't understand how it works or how that would work or whatever.
Well, here's what I think. Jeff, it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Okay.
It's smoke. Here's the idea. If I put a megawatt of power on the ERCOT grid, which we're closed, remember?
Yes.
We're not tied in with California. We're not tied in with Oklahoma. Yep. We're not tied New Mexico. We're not tied in with Louisiana. Right. We're our own grid.
Yes.
Good and bad. So that statement is kind of impossible, but
yes, he said California, yeah.
But here's what I'll tell you, and it's called credits. So if you put a megawatt of power on our grid that's 100% renewable, right, and somebody takes a megawatt of power off the California grid, then they can claim that that's a wash. And so you can get credit for using our wind energy, although there's no connection in California. I call it smoke and mirrors. They call it an accounting trick. That may be a good person to bring on is to help explain that. But I don't know how you send power to California because it denigrates. The further it goes, the less potent it is.
Yes. I mean, you'd have to have a hell of a lot of repeaters or transformers to,
Right. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with him. He's in the business. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you, I'll bet it's an accounting trick. I will tell you that HIF is working diligently to find all of the wind and solar and battery. Don't forget battery nowadays.
That's right.
Wind, solar, and battery that they possibly can, because they want green hydrogen.
Right.
And that's hydrogen made from, and the green, the blue, the pink indicates where the power came from to create the hydrogen.
Right.
So
gotcha. Yeah.
It's deep, but I will tell you that I just read something the other day that, Trump came out and said, look, without subsidies, wind and solar doesn't make sense. You lose money.
Right.
I believe that. I think there's a lot of subsidies. I don't know whether I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know what the future president and the future administration is going to think about green energy subsidies. but it's going to be something to be very interesting to watch.
A lot of people got to remember too, and I thought about this. It's like, a lot of times you have an 8-year term president where you in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
We're only going to have right two terms in a row.
Yeah,
we're not going to have it this time,
right?
Unless Vance
2 years and you start calling him lame duck.
Right, exactly. So we're only going to have a 4-year term president this time.
That's right.
And the Republican Party's got to shine a whole lot in this 4 years in order to keep where we're at now. And I'm not getting away by what we're saying. This is sort of related to what we're talking about here. When a plan comes in place like that, or Trump puts his plans in place, you're going to have somebody else come in there, or Vance, if he decides, if it works out to the end. We know what happened with other vice president just totally split away.
Right.
Is it going to coincide? Are we going to go through all of this in 4 years and have everything set up just to be taken down by a Democrat or
even a change in administration from Republican to Republican? You're absolutely right.
Right. So we have to watch how things are getting done for the long term, not for a 4-year term. Because
amen,
you're going to do a lot of work, putting a lot of things together for 4 years, and then have it change again. It's like, okay, now it's getting ridiculous. You have the Democrats come in, it gets changed by the Republicans. The Republicans come in, gets changed by the Democrats. And you got to watch. Yeah,
you change the rules on the border. You change the rules at the EPA. Yeah, you change the rule at the FAA. All of these federal agencies, they put their own flavor in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what Trump did the first term. He got rid of everybody, cleaned up, did this. Then
Biden came in and got rid of. If it had Trump's name on it, that was bad. You had to get rid of it.
Yeah, taken down. And
whether it was a good process or a good program or not, it had to go.
Yeah, and I don't think he's much. I don't think Trump's that big on a green scale, only because we know what he talked about last time when he was in office.
No, I know.
But I think he's a little softer on it now, because he has to realize that, drill, baby, drill, the big thing that they're talking about.
Sure.
Listen, regardless, people say, oh, we got to get away from oil. You're never going to get away from it. Never. No. There is no possible way, because
everything plastic has oil in it,
and everything that's renewable energy is plastic. You got batteries are plastic,
right?
They're plastic. Solar, that's all plastic. Everything's plastic.
It's all made with petroleum products,
and you're not going to get away from it. So I don't know where everybody's dreaming this. Nobody's come and said, hey, by the way, we can make plastic without oil. No one said that yet. Nobody's come and said we can make plastic without oil.
Well, the other thing too, Jeff, the other thing too that I think we need to keep in mind too, we can drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
But our production of gasoline and fuels is fairly capped. We haven't added a processing plant in a long time.
Right.
And so you can have drill all you want to and have all of this. I mean, at one time we had excess natural gas where they were just flaring it and burning it because because they didn't have enough room to transport it.
And if you remember, we had so much oil that it was worth nothing.
Right.
It was worth zero.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And that's not good.
Couldn't give away a barrel. Just couldn't do it. And that was Trump was in during that time.
And I guess I've morphed into the thought process of all of the above.
Yeah.
I want us to concentrate on base load. In other words, pretty much guaranteed to be there, which is natural gas, nuclear, thermo, hydro. Hydro is there. Thermo is there. I mean, the Earth's always hot, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you're pumping hot water out and turning the turbines, batteries the last 2 hours. Like you said, I'm in the all the above.
I think our water issue could be solved very easily. I really do. I think the water issue for the state of Texas could be solved fairly easy. I think California, with the issues that they have as well, could be solved very easily. We're coastal states. Number one, I have in Aruba, and I think I talked about this before. In Aruba, they have the saltwater plant down there, which converts salt water into regular drinking water. It's probably the best water I've ever drank in my life, ever.
Yeah, it's completely pure.
Pure, 100%. And it's all it is cooked water. It separates the salt from, and then the salt and the sand is actually, or the salt comes in, they actually pour it back out in the beach, or or pour it back in. So it revitalizes.
Or goes back into the water. Yeah,
it goes back into the water again. And being that we live in a state that has lots of gas pockets, so we have tons of gas here. I think that putting them two together would be very smart thinking to especially help a lot of the coastal counties in the area that have water issues, in the valley, down the valley, that dry spells and things like that. Then you would need pumps to pump water to wherever it needs to go. You can even pour you can even pour it back into major rivers north and just let it come through, and that will revitalize water. It's going to go back out. It just keeps on recirculating, coming around
now. And I will tell you, there is some negotiations going on right now with a desalinated project. And what I'm learning is, and it's all a matter of best use of the public dollars. So right now, if we were to get, and they use barrels, Lower Colorado talks about acre feet of water. In my world, I talk gallons. In the desalinization world, they talk barrels. I don't know why, but anyway, the problem right now is that even drilling wells and using groundwater per gallon is cheaper than desalinated water. So if you're a community, do you want what your customer can afford? Or do we want to go desalinization even though it's going to cost us more? I mean, I'm already freaking out over the increase in our water bills.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
So for us to now go desal, it's possible. The technology's there, but the cost is higher. So
I think we would have to look at the fact of how much more per person would it cost to do this. Well water is great, but it's not always available.
Yeah,
parts dry up. Desalination is always available; it's always there.
Well, that kind of goes into what I've told people in an industrial side is, LCRA continues to go up on their firm water customer rate. The idea is, what's cheaper, no water or desalinated water? If you're Texas brine and you've got to have water injected down into the salt domes to pump out salt water to sell, you got to have water.
You got to have water.
And if you're not getting it from LCRA at $147 a acre foot, then where are you going to get it from? Now, what happens when desalinated water is $200 an acre foot? So I buy my $147 acre foot until I can't get it. And then by God, $150 acre foot sure looks awful good when I don't have any. So yeah, that's an interesting concept, but it's something. It's that arc, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's the cost of desal And then where does the axis fall?
Yeah, and again, if you want to take, let's say you take this, okay, we started out here in Bay City with one well, and then as the city grew, they had to dig another one.
That's
Now
right.
they're now we're digging a third.
Now we're digging one near Schulman.
Right. Now, if you had a desalination, which I don't know the population of Aruba, I really don't, but that plant down there is very small. So for just small, it's two big tubes that are there that just have steam coming out of them. They're not the prettiest things in the world, but it doesn't take up a lot of room.
Yeah.
It's not like a plant. It's a small system to work at, but minimal employees, by the way, there. To work, it pretty much operates and works on its own. It works itself. You have a couple people there for leaks and gas detection and things like that.
Power is certainly a large component. Here's what I thought. I'm kind of, you find a power plant that needs water,
right?
And you got a desalinated plant that needs power, and marry those two.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And build it bigger than either one needs, so that you can sell power and sell water.
The steam that is generated by this desal plant, okay, just to give you an idea, down in Aruba is generated by steam. So the power is a steam. It sits off to the side. It's a small building.
So you're turning the blades.
Yeah, to turn. That's it. That's it. It's like, I probably have 110 power in there for your lights, but anyway, to run the turbines for the, for the water and stuff like that, for the pumps, and that is used by steam. So I think long term.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. Long-term desalinization, and understand too, it doesn't even have to be out of the Gulf of Texas or the Gulf of America or the Gulf of Mexico, whatever Trump wants to call it.
The Gulf of Whataburger.
The Gulf. I saw the Gulf of Buc-ee's.
Yes, the Gulf of
it could be. You could bring brine, low salt infused water.
Yep.
We're sitting on a mountain of brine.
Yeah, brackish.
Underground brine water, and so that would take less. But right now, the projects are looking at,
and that's very shallow too.
Right. Now there is some question from folks. Haskell Simons being one, was certainly somebody that if we draw down that groundwater, what replaces it? So, when you draw it down, something's going to take its spot. And is that a detriment? But right now they're talking about pulling it out of the Gulf of Mexico, processing it, and then pumping the salt back into the Gulf.
That's right. Yeah.
So very, very environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Because Corpus, the reason they had trouble, they were going to pull Gulf water in, take the salt out, and then store the salt. And nobody wanted salt stored next to them.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, but this one is a closed process where it's going back out.
Back in. Yep. Same way it is in Aruba. It goes back in.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes right.
I think you're going to see it get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an economy of scale. I think the more customers they have, the cheaper they can do it, just like everything else.
Yeah.
And I think our industries, I know for a fact our industries are very interested in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they see the handwriting on the wall from LCRA. And it's not LCRA's fault. Don't feel like I'm hammering LCRA.
Right.
They've got a lot of straws into those lakes. There's a lot of municipal use from that lake water, and everybody agrees, including me, that municipal water use has to take priority over industry and certainly ag.
Yeah. And I think by doing that, and maybe they just do it for the bigger business. Maybe you do this, for the bigger industries and stuff like that, and not take groundwater. And I think our groundwater levels might even come up better or higher with being able to pipe these to the plants it goes to. I think. All right.
I think Corpus is interested. I think if we get desalinization in Matagorda County, I would be willing to bet. I don't know this,
right?
But I'd be willing to bet that there's that Corpus Christi pipe sitting right there on the west side of the Colorado River at State Highway 35.
Right.
If you piped desalinated water to them, my guess is they would because they're short water as well. It's not just us.
Yeah.
They're desperately short of industrial and drinking water. So
yeah.
I would think that Corpus would be a customer for desalinated water as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. All right, before we tear out of here, quiet zone. I know you want to talk about that. I know that was one of the top priority lists up there.
Well, so the city council is going through a study right now. I just want to prepare people for the fact that when this study comes out, and I have no crystal ball, it broke. But I want people in Bay City to be prepared. Your city council's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing a study to see what would it take, is it possible, and what would it cost to have quiet zones. But I'm going to set the stage for them because I don't want them to be the bad guy. I'm going to play bad guy. We cannot, as a community, afford a quiet zone on all of the rail crossings in Bay City. You've got 7 rail crossings over the Union Pacific, and you've got 5 rail crossings over the BNSF. About $225,000 a crossing. And so if you want every existing crossing, that's $3.25 million. Now, how much do you want the council to up your property taxes? You want them to triple? Because we really want quiet zone, right? We really do. But are you willing to pay 3 times what you're paying today? Remember, I pay $1,306. I don't know what you pay. It's on your report. It's on your tax bill. $3.25 million. The city doesn't have it. They can't go borrow it. They've already got things they need to borrow the money for. Here's my alternative. Here's what I think would fix quiet zone. If you would agree on the UP line, which is east to west, you've got Avenue A, you've got Avenue C, you've got Avenue F, you've got K, you've got Live Oak, you got 457. If you would close 4 of those and keep 3. But the last time we tried that, we tried closing that. We tried to close the one right behind the Chinese there, and everybody and his brother came out. You can't close that. You can't close that crossing. That's so valuable. The firefighters even came out and said, "Don't close any crossings." You can't have both, Jeff.
Okay, I got a question.
You can't have 7 crossings and they all be quiet.
I got a question. How many new houses were built along railroad tracks in Bay City?
New houses? I don't know. That new apartment complex was built there at Avenue K.
Yeah.
Right on the tracks.
Besides that, anyone else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so guess what? When you moved there, you knew.
I agree. No.
That's all I gotta say.
You're right. You're right.
You knew. You can't go and buy a house
Yeah.
that's next to Lyondell-Basell and all of a sudden start bitching and moaning about Lyondell-Basell because you already knew what the situation there was.
You're right.
So guess what? I would throw that out quicker than spit.
Well, but council is listening, and the people want quiet zone.
Yeah.
There's one guy that even went so far as to say it was cutting his life short because of the stress of the train horn waking him up. I'm just telling you, you can't have both. You can't have 7 quiet zone crossings on the UP line.
No,
you can't afford it.
But how much money does the rail line bring into the Bay City?
Oh, I
think we talked about this a while back.
Yeah,
that there's money that is brought into the city.
It's certainly. I will tell you that Tenaris wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the UP rail line.
There you go. There's one.
HIF would not be here without the UP rail line.
Right.
They want to rail out. Environmental Fluids, the little place south of town, wants on the rail. And what's the other one? Environmental Fluids, the other Chemical Inc.
Yeah, Chemical
They
Inc.
want on the rail line. You know, they want on the Barrett Minerals wants on the rail line. There is a lot of industry, a lot of jobs that are here because we have a rail. You want to talk to the leadership of somebody that does not have rail is Palacios. They cry for rail. They cry for rail.
Yep.
And because rail was pulled out of their community many years ago.
The closest thing they got to rail is Blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Nothing south. There's nothing south of that. Nothing.
And so anyway, I'm just trying to I'm trying to get ahead for council. They're trying to help you. They don't have enough money to have quiet zones for every crossing. The railroad will give you money if you close crossings.
Yeah.
So if you would close 4 crossings, you'd have plenty of money to put 3 quiet zones in. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm just trying to prepare people. You're going to have a report. It's going to come down. They spent $80,000 on this study. I think the engineering firm's doing a tremendous job, doing their due diligence, finding out exactly what it's going to take rather than hearsay, rather than listening to Mitch Thames say what is needed. You're going to have the God's honest truth. You're going to have a real cost to look at. Guys, this is Mitch Thames talking, and I'm not talking for council. You and I can't afford every existing crossing we have today. And I know you're partial to your little precious crossing. But if you would leave maybe Avenue C, 60, and 457 and close everything else, I know it would cause a firestorm and everybody would worry because an ambulance, I'm going to die because an ambulance won't be able to use that crossing. And it's going to be an extra 30 seconds and I won't make it because of that. And that may be true. I'm just telling you, I live in real world, not fantasy world. And fantasy world doesn't work. Real world is you're going to have to close. You got all of those stupid little crossings on the BNSF. That's the north-south. You got all those little residential streets. There's no reason that every street should have a rail crossing. There is no reason whatsoever. So I've got to drive 3 blocks down to do a crossing. So what? I know if you live over there, it's the end of the world for you. But anyway, that's all I was going to say. The other thing, next week, we're going to talk about school vouchers. I think it's going to pass, Jeff.
Yeah.
We will watch the bills and we will analyze them as they come across. But I'm going to throw something out. I want to see a radical change in funding for school districts. I want to see us move from attendance funding to registration funding. I'm going to use a simple number. If I've got 100 kids signed up to be at Bay City ISD, I want to be funded for 100. If 10 of those kids are absent, I don't want to be penalized.
Right.
I want to be funded for 100. I'm having to hire teachers for 100.
Right.
I'm having to plan for band for 100. I'm having to plan transportation for 100. Now, the fact that 10 of them are absent any one day, I'm only now getting, in the real world today, I'm only getting funded for 90, but I have to plan all 100.
Right.
I want to see attendance funding go away. I want to see if you give a student, a parent, their choice. I want the TEA to follow that student and accountability at whatever school that voucher goes to. And then let those up and coming fly-by-night schools that are going to be created, let them decide, do you want to open up to the TEA and accept this school voucher money or not?
Right.
We'll talk a little bit more about that, Jim.
All right. My view on that is you have a wedding and you're supposed to have 100 people come to your wedding. And you pay dinner for 100 people and only 90 show up. You go to the guy, well, I'm only going to pay you for 90.
Right.
You know what that guy?
Right.
You know what that guy's going to say?
Yeah.
Tough titty, said the cow to the kitty.
That's right.
It ain't happening.
It's not.
No.
It's not fair.
It's amazing how some things turn out in a small way, like what I just explained to you, like that.
Yeah.
Where you're making dinner for 100, only 90 show up, and then somebody comes to you and say, well, I'm only paying for 90 because only 90 showed up.
Right.
But when you get to big things like school boards and school, like things like this, that people will say, well, I'm only going to pay this much for it. No, you got to pay for what you expected, what it is. That's what we were expecting, and that's what you got to pay for. And then they all of a sudden they don't want to, and then that turns everything into voting and more money spent on putting something together to make everybody happy. You know what? I think there's too many councils and too many governments, and they're trying to make certain people happy for the wrong reason than the right reason anymore. And
to get reelected, or to say, hey, I'm going to do this, and there ain't no way it can be possibly done. The only thing I could see that would not cost the city any money is rerouting the track south of the city. But how many millions of dollars do you think that is going to be Billion.
in order to do that? And the rail system is going to say, that ain't happening. So, that's the only way to do it. I think you moved there. You knew they were there.
Right.
Years. I mean, listen, that's rail.
I'll tell you a funny story real quick. There was a subdivision built off of Highway 6 at the end. And when I tell you at the end of the Sugar Land Airport, I'm telling you these planes are 300 feet in the air.
Uh-huh.
And some idiot is putting in a subdivision there. Mm-hmm. And I was working there at the time.
Yeah. And
I kept trying to figure out why, and 2 years later, you've got all these homeowners wanting the airport to change their actions.
Yeah. No.
The developer built at the end of a runway. You bought your stupid house at the end of the runway.
Sure.
And now you want the airport to shut down.
No.
Go figure.
Nope. I would say just go. Nope.
Same thing with the railroad. Jeff, you're absolutely right.
No, it's getting
you moved where there's a, look, I live I live downwind of, and there are times I swear I think the train's in my backyard.
Yeah, and you're about 5-6 blocks away from it. Yep.
Yeah, and I can't imagine those people. I live on 7th Street. I can't imagine those people that live on 2nd Street. It's got to be even worse.
Yeah, there by the school. Now, those are probably the newest houses that were put in by
back there in the back. Yeah,
in the back.
Nice,
going the back way to the school.
Yeah,
but when they bought the houses and built the houses, they knew the train was there.
There's the lot. There's the track. Yeah.
Right. Now the whistle won't blow. It doesn't normally blow through there. It blows when they're coming from west to east, but it don't blow there from them coming east to west. Yeah. And I've seen it. I've seen that train go through there a lot, but listen, at the shop, I'm only 3 blocks away from the train.
Yeah, you are.
My whole building shakes. I mean it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I know it's there. I'm not going to complain about it. I know it's there. All right, we got to get out of here. Now you stay there for 1 second because I have a quick question to ask you. Only take a second. But anyway, appreciate everybody watching, listening, and listening to us two old hags bitch and moan about things going on in our government. But anyway, the show is brought to you by the Medical Arts Clinic here in Bay City. Make sure you go visit those fine folks. They're excellent doctors. They're taking care of me. And I don't know if you noticed, but I had a facelift.
All right.
And
a tummy tuck? What about the tummy tuck you told me about?
You're calling me fat now, Mitch? That's
no, I said tummy tuck.
But he's calling me fat. I'm going to have my associate come over to you and take care of that. All right. But anyway, let me get this up.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, on behalf of myself, Jeff Michaels, and the lovely and talented Mitch Thames, who's going to be soon to be Speaker of the House of Representatives.
I'm in it to win it.
He's in it to win it, baby. It's right. He's going to take people in the arena and kick the crap out of them. That's what he's going to do. Anyway, we'll talk to you all next week right here on Gulf Coast One Radio and Inside Texas.